Hey, it's Sean. So, like, the next video is on cron jobs and the at daemon. Dude, shut up. Cron and at are super awesome. And don't forget about the batch command. That's like the coolest one of them all. Look, they can just Google it or something. I mean, everybody uses cron. I don't need to explain one more time what the 5 fields are for and like the magical extra field for the system. Oh, come on. You have very few skills, but making boring things interesting is like one of them. I mean, it's not really boring. It's just, I've done it before and I don't know. I don't want to teach it and like miss something or teach it slightly different than I did before. No, I think maybe you're just lazy. You didn't even change your shirt for this bit. Okay, good point. Different life decisions version of me. Let's do this. Let's talk about cron and at and a little bit of batch. Okay, in all seriousness, we're going to cover the at daemon and then how to use cron, both the personal cron tab and the system cron tab, or the system cron, which is run by the cron daemon. So cron tab, and at are what we're going to cover. And it's the kind of thing that's super simple, but it's really confusing, especially cron, until you understand how to use it. And then it's like so much simpler than even the what is the Windows task scheduler? That thing always confuses me, but this isn't bad. Oh, and I guess this is section 1.4.2. If you're keeping track with my numbering system, that kind of goes along with the Linux Plus objectives. So the add daemon is something that's really simple, and I have to admit I don't use it very often. In fact, for some reason, I just never really use it. I'll usually do something. If I want to delay an action, I suppose I should start there. What the at daemon does is it allows you to have a command executed at a specific time. Just a one-time thing. It's not a repeating thing. That's what cron is for. He foreshadows about the video. But the at daemon is like, you have to do something once, but you want to do it in the future at a specific time. That's what it's for. Usually, I'll do something like, I'll just say like, sleep for 10 seconds. And I'll put a semicolon and then I'll say whatever it is I want to do. So I'll press enter, and then after the 10 seconds are up and it's slept for its 10 seconds, it will just do the thing. But the at daemon is literally designed to do this kind of thing much, much better. And it just works like this. You can say at and then specify a time, and it's extremely flexible. You can say at tomorrow, and it will happen 24 hours from the moment that you type that in. So I could say at tomorrow. You can say at now plus 5. Actually, let's do now plus 2 minutes. And then you press enter. And then you're in the interactive shell. And this is where you can do a list of things you want it to do. I want to say echo hello, and I want it to redirect into the tilde temp hello.txt, which is where I am currently in that directory. And then to get out of here, you press Control D. Now you can't see me do that, but Control D. And now if we type at queue, it will show us the queue of jobs that are waiting to execute. And it tells you when it's going to execute. We can look in the directory here. There's no file. However, once that time comes, once Saturday, December 10th at 6:31 p.m. happens, it will execute the command that is in there. Let's see if it happened. Not yet. How close are we? Oh, we still have another 55 seconds. Hold on, I'm going to pause the video.
A few moments later.
Okay, if we look at the date, oh, look, it's 6:31. If we type ls, we're going to see, haha, look, that file is there. And now if we type at queue to look at the queue, it's empty because it executed and it's done. It's a one-time thing. All right, so let's do something similar, but this time I'll show you how to remove something. So I'm going to say at tomorrow. Okay, at tomorrow, press enter. I'm in the interactive at system where I type commands, and you'll see it says when it's going to execute. It's going to be tomorrow, which is Sunday, December 11th at 6:31 p.m. So 24 hours from now. And what I wanted to do is rm tilde temp hello.txt. All right, press enter, and now press Control D. I could do a couple strings of command. I could also like maybe reboot the computer or something, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say Control D. I'm going to hold down the Control key on my keyboard and press D. And that gets us out, and the job is scheduled. So we can do at queue and see that it's scheduled. But I'm like, I don't want to wait until tomorrow. So what I can do is remove that. At rm, and then the job number. That's the first field here, which is job number 6. So at rm for remove 6, and now at queue. There are no things in queue. Okay, so it's really simple to do that. And again, there's a lot of things you can do. You can say at tea time, and it will schedule it for the next 4 p.m., which is interesting, I suppose. And you can just do, so it's very, very flexible like that. You can do at, Sunday, 6 p.m., something like that, and it will do that. Anyway, that's the at daemon. Now, it's not mentioned in the objectives, but batch is part of the at system, and it's not widely used anymore because its usefulness has kind of gone away with how powerful computers are now. But basically, if you were to say batch and press enter, you are in the at queue right here. It looks just like we did it at a certain time, right? And if we were to say like echo howdy, and I want that in that same place, press enter, then control D. So now it's scheduled. But you notice I didn't say a time, I said batch. And how batch works is it will do any commands that you've entered as batch as soon as the system has a load of below 1.5. Okay, so since systems now have lots of CPU cores, generally the system load is going to be below 1.5 all the time. So every minute it'll like pick one off of your batch queue and it will execute it. But when computers used to be less powerful, it would allow you to schedule something to get done as soon as possible, and it would just wait until the system kind of had a lull below a system load of 1.5, and then it would execute a batch at command that you set up. So it was just a way to make your computers a little more efficiently use their down moments, if you will. It's not used very much anymore, but that's what batch means. It's actually referring to the at daemon, and rather than a timing thing, it does it as soon as the system load is below 1.5. Now, unlike the at daemon, cron is something I use constantly. It is absolutely amazing. It's flexible. It's reliable. It's just stinking awesome. So let me explain the bits that are confusing, especially at first. There are 5 fields that determine when a command gets executed. And the difference between at and cron is designed to run something over and over at a specific interval. So if you have something that you need to do often, like run a backup script or something like that, cron is generally how you would do that. There are other ways, but cron is pretty much the de facto standard way of timing events at a regular occurrence. And like I said, there are 5 fields, and using those 5 fields, you can construct pretty much any interval that you want. So the first field is what minute of the hour. So like 1:37 p.m., this would be like 37, okay? And the next field is what hour of the day, 0 to 23. It uses a 24-hour clock because that's easier than having to specify AM and PM. So let's say that at, I got to do some quick AM PM math. Let's say at 2 p.m. or 2:37 p.m. you want this to happen. So you would say, okay, 2 p.m. is going to be 1400 hours. So the second field would be 14. And then what day of the month? Well, if you want it to happen every day at 2:37 p.m., you would use an asterisk, which is what that's what it shows right here, an asterisk. That means every occurrence of this. So every day I want you to do this. And then what month of the year? If you only wanted this to happen every day of November, then you would put an 11 in this field. If you want it to happen every day, it also has to happen every month. So again, you would put an asterisk there. And then the last one is what day of the week. So let's say that we wanted to have this happen every Wednesday at 2:37 p.m. Well, then we would say, if we put a star here, it would happen every day. But if we just want it to happen every Wednesday, then we would say, okay, what number is Wednesday? And Sunday is 0. Sunday is also 7, which is, annoying or whatever, but Sunday is 0. So that means Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, Wednesday is 3, Thursday is 4, Friday is 5, Saturday is 6. And like I said, Sunday is 0, but Sunday is also 7 over here. If it wraps around for some reason. Anyway, so what did I say? I say Wednesday or Tuesday? I don't remember which day I said, but we want it to happen every Wednesday. I'm going to say now at 2:37 p.m. So then here we would put 3 for Wednesday. And then this is our field. There's a space between every one of these. You can't necessarily see it with my writing. But so 37 space 14 space asterisk, space 3. That is how we spell out in cron every Wednesday at 2:37 p.m. And then you put a space and then the command that you want it to execute. And so every day it will execute as you, and I'm going to show you how to actually edit this file in a second, but that's how we form the commands to execute it. So the hard part is figuring this out because it seems confusing, but it's really not. Once you go through it and practice a couple times, let's say the first of every month at 2 a.m., I want something to happen. Okay, I just made that up, so now let's spell it out. The first of every month at 2 a.m. Okay, so 2 a.m. means a 0 in the first field, right? Because it's 2:00. So 0 minutes. 2 a.m. is going to be a 2, so space 2. Let's see, the next field is what day of the month. The first day of the month is what I said. So the first day of the month. What month of the year? So month 1 through 12. Well, every month. I want it to happen the first of every month. So this fourth field is going to be an asterisk. And then the fifth field, what day of the week? This part can be a little confusing. Of all of the 5 fields, the fifth field is the most confusing in some instances. If we specify a particular day here, it will only execute if everything matches. So if I were to put like a 1 here for Monday, this means that it would happen at 2 a.m. on the first day of every month that also happens to be Monday. That's not what I want. I want it to happen every single first of the month. And so I would actually put an asterisk in that field too, meaning that every day of the week is okay for it to happen. It's not going to mean it's going to execute every day of the week. It's going to execute the first day of every month, regardless of what day it happens to be. I hope that makes sense. That's where it gets a little confusing. It's always that last field that you're like, wait a minute, do I want it to be specific? Do I want it to be asterisk? Usually you want it to be an asterisk unless you're wanting to limit it to a particular day. That's the best way to think about it. If you want to limit it to executing only on a particular day of the week, that's where that fifth field is going to be something other than an asterisk. But if you want it to happen regardless of what day of the week it is, put that as an asterisk and let the other fields determine the interval between when it executes. Okay, so that's how you form those 5 fields. The best thing to do is practice, practice, practice. This is Saturday. I'm going to have a weekend assignment for tomorrow's live stream. If you see this months later, that's fine. But the assignment is going to be a bunch of cron configuration things for you to help figure out. The best way to do it is really to just like come up with a random time and then spell it out in cron fields exactly what that means. All right, now let's look and see how we actually edit it. So the cron daemon is running. It's absolutely running on your system. I've never known a computer that doesn't come with cron already installed. And to edit your user cron tab, which means cron table. I actually had to Google that. I didn't really remember what cron tab stood for, but it's your cron table. You edit it by saying cron tab-e for edit, and it will open up a file. The file actually lives in var spool cron and your username, but you don't want to edit it directly because this is another one of those tools where crontab-e will do some syntax checking when you save to make sure that you don't accidentally corrupt your own crontab file and have nothing work, right? So crontab-e offers us some syntax checking when we save. So I'm going to do that, press enter. The first time it's going to ask you what editor you want to use. And so as usual, I recommend that you use Nano unless you have a reason to use something else. Like I always use VI just because that's my muscle memory from decades of use. But this is actually my current desktop computer. This is my crontab file. Now I actually set an environment variable at the top, display equals :0, because some of the things that I do in my crontab interact with my X Windows system. And so I have to set that environment variable, but you probably will not see this. And you definitely won't see it on a server, but you probably won't have that line. And that's fine. That's just, like I said, that's just because this first thing that I do, cycle my desktop, that interacts with my X Windows system. And so I have to set that environment variable. So just ignore that first line. Let's look and see if we can figure out what my timing things are here. Okay. So we have, this is something I didn't explain, but we have the first field is actually this construct here, asterisk /15. What that means is every 15 minutes. Okay, it's asterisk and then like divided by 15. And that's a way that we say in the first field, I want it to be every 15 minutes. So you can do like */2 and it will run every 2 minutes. So it's kind of cool that you have those shortcuts you can do. So that's every 15 minutes. That's how we specify that with cron, of every hour, every day of the month, every month of the year, regardless of what day of the week it is. I put all asterisks in the rest of it because I wanted it to execute every 15 minutes around the clock forever. Okay. How about this next one? This is a PHP script where I download the Bing photo of the day, which is the stuff that I cycle in the background for as my background images. Oh, hello, puppy. So I do this every day. Let's see. So the first field is 1. So that means 1 minute after 5 a.m. So 5:01 a.m. every day of the month, every month of the year, regardless of what day of the week it is, I run this PHP with the argument of this PHP script. Okay, so this is what I execute, and I do it at 5:01 a.m. Here we have, let's see, what is this? Oh, this executes my, so I have a Calibre ebook collection, and this generates an HTML version of it so I can access it remotely on my reading devices. Anyway, what this does is 10 minutes after 5 a.m. So this one executes, the one above it executes at 5:01 a.m. This one executes at 5:10 a.m. every day of the month, every month of the year, regardless of what day of the week it is. It executes this command. And then what I've done here is I've redirected the output into dev null. So I don't want any output because it spews out a bunch of stuff as it does it, but I don't want that information anywhere. By default, crontab will email any output to you. So you don't want any output if you can help it. And so I redirect the output into dev null, and then here I redirect the standard error into standard output. So no matter what happens, I never get notified. It just goes into dev null, but it executes the command at 5:10 a.m. every day. And like I said, every user has a cron tab of their own. So that's my personal S-Powers user on my computer, and I execute those as my user. Now there is a system cron system, a system-wide cron daemon that allows you to do things not as your individual user. You can do them as root, or you can do it as any user. And that lives in the etc folder, which makes sense because it's a system-wide function. So cron tab, user cron tabs exist for each individual user, but there's a system cron tab. When you install packages that need to do like regular maintenance, they will drop a file in the etc cron.d folder, and that's where we'll go now. Now, more than just the etc cron.d or cron.d folder, there are a couple other things you should know. So there is an etc crontab file, which is a system-wide cron file that is formatted slightly differently, but there are other things in here as well. So first of all, I guess let's look at how a system cron tab is actually formatted, because it's subtly different, very, very similar, but enough different that you need to understand the difference between the personal cron tab and the system-wide cron tab stored in etc cron tab in that file. And this graphic should look familiar, right? It's almost the exact same graphic that we just looked at. The difference being here, the timing is all the same, right? It's still the same, minute, hour, day of the month, month of the year, day of the week, but there's an extra field when it's the system-wide cron tab, username. This tells the cron tab, the system-wide cron tab, who do I execute the command to be executed? Who do I execute it as? And so there's just an extra field in there, and you have to watch for that. You have to think, is this my personal cron tab that doesn't have that field? Or is this the system-wide cron tab that requires me to put a username for how this gets executed? That's the difference. And I don't know if you can hear my dog whining, but I'll be right back. You won't even notice, but I'll be right back.
One eternity later.
Whew. Okay, it's cold outside, but I'm back and you didn't even know I was gone. Anyway, with the system cron, the only difference is that field where you need to specify the username, whether that username is root or a particular user on your system, or sometimes it might be like www-data, like if you wanted to execute as your web server's user without those users' permission. You could do that as well. And there's a couple ways that you can do this in our system, which brings us back to the command line. Now, I have to admit, I don't know of a special way to edit the system-wide cron tab file, like so that you get that format or that syntax checking when you save it. if there is a way, please let me know in the comments, and I'll pin the comment if there is a way. But generally, if I'm going to edit the system-wide cron tab file, which I have to admit I rarely ever do, if I do something with root privilege, I'll use the root user's cron tab file. So I'll become root and do crontab-e as the root user. But if I do need to edit the system-wide cron tab file for something like a www-data user, I will edit it directly. So I'm going to do something like vi, etc. cron tab. And notice I'm the root user right now. So if I do this, it's going to show us, well, first of all, it sets a couple environment variables, and there is a very familiar looking graphic. This is like exactly the one that I shared on the slides. But down here, you'll see this is set up to use the format that we just looked at, where we have the 5 different fields. So this one, the first field is 17, and then star. So it's going to happen 17 minutes after every hour of every day of the month, every month of the year, every day of the week. So at 1:17, 2:17, 3:17, all the way through all 24 hours, as the root user, it's going to execute this command. It's going to actually run the hourly cron tab files, which I'll show you in just a second. But this is the system-wide cron tab file. And not only don't I know a way to get the syntax checked, honestly, you should not ever edit this file. Even if you do need to do something, like I mentioned, like for a user that's like www-data, don't edit this file, because there is a better way to do it. All right, so we're gonna get out of this file. All right, and I'm going to take you into a fancy world. No, I'm going to take you into etc. cron.d. Now, this is a folder that contains individual files. And this is where, like, if a program that you install has to do something periodically, it will add a file to this, because the cron daemon will load every file that's in here. And that way, a program, like when you install a package, it doesn't have to like try to edit a single file and keep track of like its edits and other programs' edits. So Linux has kind of evolved this way, where there will be a .d folder, and this is, you know, all the files in here are read in. So if we install a package like it looks like PHP, we'll look at that in a second. PHP installed a cron tab file or a cron file in etc. cron.d, and let's look at it really quick. So vi php. You'll see that this has the exact same format. This is a system-wide cron file, okay, cron tab file in the system format, because you'll notice that field specifies a user. Okay, so if it's in here, it does need that field to say what user it executes as. But this is where you would put something if you wanted to have a custom system-wide cron file or cron job. You would put it in a file in here rather than editing that etc. cron tab file. Just don't ever touch that etc. cron tab file. That is the file that it loads everything else from, but it's not really designed for users to interact with. So anyway, here we have something, and I'm glad this is here, because there's another format that I wanted to show you. Remember, we could do like */15 for every 15 minutes. Well, you can also specify in one of the fields, those 5 timing fields, a list of things. So in this case, it executes at 9 minutes after the hour and 39 minutes after the hour. So we just have a comma separated list as our first field. So this means that it executes at, well, let's go to the other fields really quick. Every hour of every day of the month, every month of the year, every day of the week. So it happens basically every half hour. It happens at like 1:09 and 1:39, and then at 2:09 and 2:39, and it executes as root. And then the thing that executes is the rest of this. This is all one line. It word wrapped around, but this is all one line. It executes all of these things. And you'll see it strung a couple things together using semicolons. That's fine. It's all one line. And this is what it executes every 30 minutes. But that's how the timing for every 30 minutes worked out, is a comma separated thing. We could do that with hours too, right? We could say, what if we wanted it to happen at the top of every hour, every even hour? Well, then we would make that first field 0. And the second field could be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, all the way to the end. And that would happen on even hours. Or we could do */2 for the hour field. There's lots of different ways to accomplish it. But it's very, very flexible. Anyway, but the important thing is in this system cron.d folder, we have to specify the user. And now there's one more way that cron jobs happen. And this is another, like, I know I said that fifth field, like the day of the week, can be the most confusing for figuring out timing. This next aspect is really, really confusing because it doesn't follow cron timing at all. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go back a folder, and then let's cd, and I'm going to say cron. I'm going to hit tab a couple times so we get this list again. Now, we understand the cron.d folder is where we can create files, and any file we create in there is going to be read as a system-wide cron file, like that PHP file we just looked at. The cron tab file itself, etc. cron tab, we never want to edit, right? That is the system-wide cron tab file, but it's not designed for us to edit it. That's why there's a folder for us to create system-wide cron job, specifications in. The other ones, cron weekly, cron monthly, cron hourly, cron daily, these are folders where anything inside of them is executed every day or every hour or every month or every week. All right, so we don't use actual cron timing fields. These are just executable scripts. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go into the cron.daily folder, and in here, all of these, let's do ls-l. These are executable files. These are scripts, okay? And these scripts will execute every day because they exist in the etc. cron.daily folder, but they are not cron timing files. Let's look. So apparently Slack, which is installed on my system, has a daily cron job that it executes. So let's look at that. VI Slack. We'll see this is just an SH script. And it's just a script that does stuff. You'll notice there's no timing fields or anything. This is just a big long script that does stuff, okay? And so I'm gonna get out of here. The important thing to know is that we don't specify timing in these folders. These folders, everything in here is called every day. In fact, to be perfectly transparent, it's timed based on the system-wide crontab file. So if we come back in here and we look at that file that we never edit, it specifies when those commands get run. So it says this is the one that schedules when cron.daily gets run. It looks like on our system, cron.daily gets executed at 6:25 a.m. every single day. And the system, when it's set up, these will randomize a bit. And that's basically what happens. The, let's see, monthly, the cron.monthly, any script, any executable script that you put in the cron monthly folder is going to execute the first day of every month, no matter what day of the week it is, at 6:52 a.m. It's going to execute the first of every month, 6:52 a.m., if it lives in the cron monthly folder. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that was kind of a lot to cover. The @daemon is something that it's important to know it exists, and it might be useful. Like I said, I rarely actually use the @daemon, but it's kind of cool to know that it's there, and you can schedule one-time events for a later time period. Cron, like I said, is used constantly. I use it all the time. I end up using my personal cron tab for everything, for the most part. And then I'll also, like, if there's something I need the root user to do regularly, I will often just SU and I'll become root and then do crontab-e as the root user. And I will use the root user's user cron tab. So without that field specifying the username, and I'll do things there. Or you can actually create your own system-wide cron jobs in the etc. cron.d folder, create a file, and inside there, use the 5 timing fields, and then that extra field saying what user it should execute as, and then the command that you need to run. And of course, those daily, weekly, monthly, those folders do not contain cron timing stuff. Those are just executable scripts that get executed on a regular basis based on the name of the folder, right? I mean, the cron.weekly folder executes every week. Anyway, that's how it works. We should have name scrolling here. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. It's kind of getting to be a long video, so I don't want to yammer on too much. But the last thing I want to leave you with is a way to practice those timing fields. And to do that, I highly, highly recommend going to crontab.guru. I'll put a link in the description, but crontab.guru is a website that allows you to figure out the timing on those 5 fields. Now you can do things like hit the random button and it will, do a random thing here and it will show you what that looks like and what it actually means. So I like to do this just to see some of the random things it comes up with. Otherwise, you can specify things in here and it will explain to you in real time. Let's say we did 22, comma 23. Then it would say at minute 0 past hours 22 and 23 on every day of the week from Monday through Friday. Okay, so it allows you to calculate those things and it explains to you what they mean in real time. There's also a nice little cheat sheet down here where it can give you, any value. You can separate things by commas. You can do a range, like I didn't cover that one, but 1 through 5 means Monday through Friday, which is kind of cool too. All right, so it will do it every day, Monday through Friday, if you do 1-5 in that last field. Anyway, it's a great way to figure out how you can time your cron tab entries. And with that, I'll remind you to learn everything, do what you love, and most importantly, be kind. I'll see you in the next video and have fun with cron.